From the former convent of the Good Shepherd overlooking Inwood Hill Park in New York City, welcome to Inwood Art Works On Air. It's where I meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome photographer Emmanuel Abreu. Emmanuel is a New York City-based photographer who has been collaborating with his uptown community of Washington Heights Inwood since the start of his career. His images tend to capture the raw joy in almost any situation, and this is why his work has led him to become a professional wedding photographer. His travel photography focuses on landscape, street, sometimes portraiture, just like in his neighborhood. Some of his work has been featured on media outlets like local Manhattan Times, New York Times, and local blogs, as well as sites like the Huffington Post and Gothamist. He hopes to continue capturing the love and beauty of his community for years to come, and we are excited to talk to him today about his work behind the camera and so much more. But first, let me welcome you, Emmanuel, to Inwood Art Works On Air. It's great seeing you.
Thank you for having me. The commute was really tough.
I bet. How many steps?
Like 3 and like 2 blocks away. Next time I need a budget for a cab.
You got it. Have your people talk to my people, and we'll make sure a car, or perhaps a pedicab.
I need a 10-car limo, which is the subway.
Well, exactly. But that's the beauty, right? That's the why I started this thing, because when you and I have been long-time residents here, and it's like, you have to go usually, hop on the train, like you're saying, or a long cab ride home from downtown at the end of the night after a work day, or out of town for a work day. Mm-hmm. And so to have something local for local people to do, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's great to have you. What I really love about your work, which seems to be everywhere, if I turn on the social media, is a picture of yours somewhere, which is amazing. And what I really enjoyed about it, it's very story focused. Whether it's weddings or street photography or setups of how many George Washington Bridge photos do you take a year? And
way too many.
I always see the story, be it of empathy, outrage, or joy in your frame. It's really a wonderful thing to behold.
I appreciate that.
You betcha. Do you have any mentors in your life that influenced your eye for composition?
I think I try to learn it. I try to learn photography technically by reading and watching, videos online, and just searching for, how to do this, how to do that. And then I just started shooting. As far as like actual people that helped me through and learning, different tips and tricks. I learned by shooting with other people, namely BJ Enright, who passed away a number of years ago. He was the first person to actually bring me into like wedding photography. And David Nicholas, who I still work with, he's taught me a ton of stuff. Technically, lighting and other stuff, mainly wedding photography. On the business end, I've learned from just, dozens of photographers that I've worked with. And as far as like the arts part of it, the figuring out composition, figuring out the art of it, the creative part of it, that comes from all over. There's no one or two photographers that I can name, because there are brand new photographers that I'm just finding out about, that are like teenagers that are doing things online that I'm like, that's dope as hell. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna try that too. So I know a lot of artists, especially photographers, because I'm around a lot of photographers. They'll just run down a bunch of like historic photographers. Like, oh yeah, Gordon Parks and all these people. And I mean, they're dope as hell, obviously. But I felt that if I just focused on one or two photographers to feed me in a way, then I would only be focused on trying to do this one thing. But instead, I try to really just take in all this beautiful stuff. And some of it just doesn't work for me because, I don't feel it the same way they do. But then some stuff really does work. And I'll try different things at every shoot, Mm-hmm. So To answer your question, everyone.
So if you're out there, he's seen your work. It's now been sucked into part of his. Well, all the
stole it,
and all the best. We'll say all the best art is stolen, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, actually, some of my favorite photographers are the photographers that join us for Uptown Photo Walks.
I was about to mention that,
which we'll talk about, sure. But yeah, some of my favorite photographers come from there. Like, no, sorry, not come from there, but I've met through there. And they're not like older photographers who've been shooting for decades or anything like that. Like, most of them are kids, and they just have this raw talent that I love. I love watching them grow, and then I kind of grow with them too,
Now, are you all digital guy, or do you like some old school film stuff too?
I do shoot film, but I don't consider myself a solid film shooter, because I don't know the technical parts of film as much as I do digital. So I do it mostly for fun, mostly as a hobby.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Very cool. Need your own dark room and everything. It's a lot of stuff, man.
It's expensive.
It is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, let's talk about the Uptown Photo Walk since you brought it up. It's with another local cinephile and photographer, Carlos Deschamps. You started the walk, and I love this project because it started as something very casual, and it's kind of grown into kind of like a carousel, like you said, of people coming in and out of and turning something much more, right?
Yeah, so it started actually with the photographer I mentioned before, BJ, and I'm blanking on this other photographer's name. It was both of us, and then a friend of mine joined us, and we're just hanging out, taking pictures. And I called the folder Uptown Photo Walk, and then from there, I started doing some other meetups, and called them Uptown Photo Walk meetups. But they were very sporadic until eventually I met Carlos, and Carlos was like, "Hey, let's just do this more often. Let's make it like a more official thing, And then eventually we started doing it every single month, and now, whether it's freezing cold or as hot as balls, we're still out there shooting, and it's fun because it like you said, it started as this casual thing, and I'm trying to make sure that it stays that way, that it stays casual, that it doesn't become this thing where people feel bad if they miss it or they have to pay for it or anything like that. Because what I've noticed and what I've heard from people is that it has helped people's mental health, and it has helped people's creativity. I heard this one guy who didn't actually join us at a photo walk until after he told me this, but that he encountered us in the street once, and he just started talking to us, started talking to different photographers. And because of that, he started to pursue his photography even more. Like, he was already kind of a photographer, he was already a photographer, but he wasn't pursuing it as a real thing, as a real career, until after he met us, and now I see him all the time. We're just working, basically alongside me, which is amazing. And there are other people who, I think most photographers or just artists in general are introverts, so it's a collection of introverts who are outside, who don't look like introverts once they're outside, and it's really getting people out of their comfort zone, trying new things, learning from each other. It's basically
it's all experience levels, right?
All experience levels. Yeah, you have people who have been doing it for decades, people who just started that day. Yeah, it's a very organic workshop, basically.
It's pretty awesome, and then you could find an assistant out of it. You could find people you want to work with.
I have actually. I've definitely worked with people that I've met there. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
how great is that?
Yeah,
that's true community right there.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
That's awesome. And you just had it all led to a show at Booney Coffee, right, in Inwood. Mm-hmm. You guys did a little show like a couple months ago. How great is that?
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't call it a little show. It was.
I mean, a lot of pictures.
It was a lot. It was a lot of work.
It's never a little thing.
Yeah, it was 112 images with 56 photographers, so two photos each, and yeah, it was a great turnout. We did it as a walk, so we started from Noma on 175th, at the gallery that was up there, and then we walked all the way here up to Inwood, and then had this opening celebration, and that was up for about a month and a half, and yeah, we sold some prints, and we have them online. We still have prints online for people to support, and most of the money goes directly to the photographers. I'm trying to make sure that our mission is not to make money, is to support artists in doing the walks, but also if we can financially as well.
And do you have future exhibitions planned?
Yeah, we want to make this kind of a traveling one. So we might, we're very likely going to have it next at Recirculation, which is on 160th and Riverside.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And just where we have them here, where can people go for Uptown Photo Walk to check it out?
UptownPhotoWalk.art is the official website, and then on Instagram is just Uptown Photo Walk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. We'll put that in the description of this episode so people can get the word out and join up. And you said that they're monthly now?
They're every month. We have some of the dates kind of in mind, but the next one is actually tomorrow. At 3:30 at we're starting at J Hood Wright Park.
Gotcha.
And then we're gonna cross the bridge because they just opened the North Walk, they're calling it.
Okay.
Which would be cool because I haven't walked that path in a while. And yeah, it's just a beautiful walk. And we're gonna watch the sunset basically from Jersey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So that's going to keep you or Carlos and whoever else you're going to bring in to help keep going. So
yeah, shout out to Jen. She's also part of it. She's actually co-hosting a walk in the Dominican Republic tomorrow as well.
Wow.
So it's our first international walk that we're doing.
Fancy.
So we're international and interstate, I guess. Let's go to Jersey. I don't know.
You're around. Intrastate. Yeah, they call it intrastate, right? I think that is right.
Intrastate there.
I think so.
Interesting.
Great. So let's talk about what else is happening now for you. So you're in a time of transition right now. What's going on? What's happening this year in 2023? What does it hold for you?
So I'm still part of Word Up. I'm one of the co-founders of Word Up, and we've been around. This year will be 12 years. I'm a volunteer there. I was staff for a bit there. And now I'm kind of just trying to figure out what's next for me. Like Uptown Photo Walk does take, some time and energy.
It's producing.
Yeah, exactly what it is. There's a lot to do with that, but what I want it to become is this kind of self-sustaining thing. So I could actually just take a step back and not even be part of it. Not that I don't want to be part of it, but if one day for some reason I need to, not be involved, then it'll be awesome if it kept going because people wanted it to. And it seems like it would, We have already 3 people basically running it. And yeah, other than that, there's a lot of stuff I want to do. I started making music recently. Recently, like 2 years ago.
We know you way back as DJ Boy.
Yeah. Full circle. We're doing a full circle here. I played music, then I made visual stuff, and now I'm gonna make the music. Cool. And the ultimate goal with that is to, I don't know about ultimate. Ultimate would be a Grammy, right? No, but the real reason I started doing this because I want to make music that's good enough to put on my own videos and not have to worry about, copyright or,
So you're looking at getting into scoring then, or actually creating compositions for scoring, or you're actually just making songs that stand on their own?
Right now, I'm not trying to focus on anything specific, more just figuring out the mood and making stuff. I'm making beats, right? Okay. For now. If at some point I feel okay, now I am more musically inclined and I could, I learn how to play the keyboards or another instrument, then I'll look into expanding that. But for now, I just kind of do what feels good,
Gotcha.
And it could just be that for the rest of my life. It could just be this thing that nobody ever really hears and, I don't actually use, but it's fun to do.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Do you have any instrument of choice, or are you all digital?
I'm doing all digital right now.
Okay.
But I do want to get a full keyboard and really learn that. And then eventually I want to do lot of percussion.
Yeah.
Just got a bunch of drums, but I need a bigger place.
It's always the problem with percussion too. Bigger place and also nice neighbors.
Yeah.
Because that's all.
Or no neighbors.
Or no neighbors, right? Because that's always the problem with percussion.
Yeah.
Space and neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah.
In New York City, in New York City anyway. Outside New York, in Jersey, it's probably not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. But that means I would have to live in Jersey.
And you can't leave Uptown, man. We need you here.
Actually, it's funny. Earlier this morning, I was looking at a place in the Heights on 150th. So I might fully go into the Heights, even though I've always considered myself living in Washington Heights / Inwood. This would be the first time I actually live in Washington Heights.
Yeah, you're right. Well, now you're getting on the board of almost Sugar Hill, Harlem, and Heights. So you're going from one line to another line.
Then I'll be a Harlem, Washington Heights resident.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it all sounds great, and the music thing, but it seems like it's all very interrelated to you as a individual artist, and one thing kind of bringing full circle the interview around to is that Uptown plays a big part in reflecting your identity, and an identity we see a lot in your work, right? I mean, that's it's very much a prominent character and informs, your individual art, not your commercial art that you're paid to to do, but so through music or through your volunteership, through Word Up, through service to the community. And of course your photography, and you're always willing to jump into different events in the neighborhood. I feel like it's definitely a character we see in your work, and I think it's pretty wonderful and how you represent that.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, this neighborhood is like everybody says, it's what made me, but in a literal sense, my career wouldn't exist without this neighborhood. I mean, the photographers that I've met at first came from this neighborhood. The work that I did was all in this neighborhood, with NOMA and Word Up and People's Theater Project and the United Palace and NIMIC and all these organizations that are Uptown based gave me the opportunity to shoot for them or do whatever for the DJ for them, and that's how I learned a lot of the business part of it. And also technical stuff. Like I made a lot of mistakes, and they were like, "Oh, that's fine."
Yeah. Well, I think it's wonderful that you're sticking around, maybe a little bit further down, but and I think it's open-ended question really, and there's no wrong answers. Like it's hard to be an artist anywhere, and New York City, it's more expensive than most places. So I mean, do you think Uptown will continue to be hospitable to artists?
It will be hospitable to artists who have the means. Unfortunately, I don't think it's gonna. I mean, literally, I was looking at online. I don't want to mention specific apps, but I was looking at apartment hunting apps.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how expensive it's getting every single year. It's not a few years at a time. It's every single year it goes up by $200-$300.
It didn't go down during the pandemic. It stayed. You know what I mean? Up here, it maybe went downtown because you saw a mass exodus for people who just, I think, had enough money to afford to leave and come back.
Yeah.
But we actually live here though, so it's like, where are we gonna go? But yeah, I feel like the rents / property values in general have always either maintained or kept on climbing.
Yeah, and especially now that you have, I don't know, just too many buildings to count. With
the library development.
Yeah, there's that one. There's one on Sherman.
There's stuff on 207 and 10th Avenue.
Yeah, there's so many.
Just Inwood alone, there's more in Washington Heights.
Exactly what I'm saying. Like Inwood alone, after that rezoning, it's just like, it's frustrating to see because people did fight it, and won for a second there.
A second.
But I don't think the community was in full force, and I don't know if that would have helped, but it disheartens me because I know that people that will be affected weren't part of, trying to stop that, and listen, yeah, people say, yeah, it's going to happen anyway, but I think that's the mentality that makes it happen.
It's a lot of people talking out both sides of their mouths too, politician-wise, and everything else too. It's like, oh, we won't let anything happen to you. See ya.
Yeah. Well, now you don't even live here.
Yeah. Well, it's like this whole 190th subway silliness of the graffiti being painted over.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we're gonna have to organize and put our own graffiti in there. I'm like, well, if you just wait 20 minutes, there'll be new stuff in there. You don't have to organize to put quote unquote graffiti or street art, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? It's just like everyone wanted to, I just laughed. It's like people trying to take ownership of urban art, whatever you want to call it. And you're just like, no.
I was at first, because I'm very empathetic. So at first I was like, oh yeah, fuck that sucks. But then I thought about it for a second. And as soon as I saw those blank walls, I was like, oh, this is fantastic.
Exactly.
It's like, how many artists love that?
I mean, and if we walk down there today, if anybody walks down there today, I invite you to take a picture and just post and tag Inwood Art Works, and we'll just retweet, because it's like, or we share it. It's like going, yep, see,
yeah,
nothing to worry, nothing to see here, folks. It's totally fine. We'll always be fine. And then the great irony, I thought, was the fact that Udonis is the DOT commissioner. And the DOT is the one paying it over.
Yeah.
And he was our city council member, and they're like, "This is horrible." And it's like, for public art, I think
you could have stopped this.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying it's on him, so don't everybody get mad at me here. But just saying, but
everything is on him.
Well, there you go. He's saying
all the shit we've been talking about for the past few minutes is on him.
Well, definitely the rezoning is 100%. Yeah, exactly. But my point is I'm not saying he commissioned people to paint over the subway tunnel. I'm not saying he gave an executive order for it. I'm not saying that, okay, folks. But my point is it's great. It's the irony, right? That's the whole thing. It's like, I think during that time, whatever, people get commissioned to do stuff. But yeah, it's going to keep changing, folks. Welcome New York. It's going to keep moving on. But yeah, white walls in Washington Heights and Inwood, not going to be white for so long. Yeah. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, other things will be white.
True, that's right. Like the buildings at 207 and all. I have a feeling it's going to be Tale of Three Neighborhoods. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I feel like there's going to be the, with the high rise, because I mean, who the hell's? I mean, it's like something like, I don't even know how many units, like 600 some odd units, whatever, at 207 and 9th Ave.
Oh, the one over bridges.
Yeah, and it's like they're either people who are like, who's living there, because they're either going to hop the University Heights train to go down to Grand Central, or they're going to go to White Plains to work. And it's like, there's nothing over there. It's like there's no supermarkets, so they're gonna have to put a supermarket in. It's gonna be like Hell's Kitchen kind of was. I feel like it could be like, okay, you're gonna have your building, you're gonna have parking, then you're gonna have a gym, and you're gonna have like a Gristides kind of whatever, Seatown, whatever that is, D'Agostino's or something like that, and then a coffee shop of some kind. Like you give them those three things and parking, and it's like a self-contained community. Right, it's like it'll just be siloed off, and then once they figure out how to develop the rest of the between 9th and 10th Avenue down to Sherman Creek, that whole thing's just going to live as its own thing. And
I wonder how many people are going to actually be down to pay how much it's not going to be cheap.
And they're rentals too. They're not going to. That's the thing, is like, I'll be shocked. Like everything going up. That's the strange thing, right? Nothing is for sale. It's all rentals. Right? Yeah. And so it's like, so you're not actually putting any equity in the neighborhood. The only people making money would be the people who own the property.
Yeah. And the politicians who already got paid. But,
they already got paid. So, and they'll be retired by the time it's done, or out of office, right? Their terms will be up.
Yeah. But a lot of those apartments are going to be facing the train, which is very loud.
Yeah.
So if you're paying, I don't know what, $3,500, a month, you're going to be hearing that train the entire day and the entire night.
Yeah.
Who wants to pay that much for that luxury?
Yeah.
I mean, people already live there, and they're not paying what those people are going to pay.
Right.
And you get used to it after a while. I mean, I used to live in an apartment where you could hear it, every couple of minutes, but being right there and paying that much just doesn't make any sense.
And too is that I agree with you 100%. And number two is that we're adding like, I don't know what it is, the number. Somebody floated it around to me, and so don't quote me on this. Like maybe 40,000 more people in the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, with all the different buildings. Jesus. So my question is, we're already stretched thin. Like I think the 34th precinct we have one police precinct from 177 river to river to 225. Mm-hmm. It's like the biggest precinct in Manhattan, and we have one fire company to do all that stuff. And you're going to add much more people. We still have the same train lines. We're not adding any more trains. So we're not adding more infrastructure. And so, but we're going to add more people and likely more cars and likely more density.
All the time.
And the buses are packed.
Is always packed.
Well, you remember when we were way back, we could just, when 207 train came around, or Dykeman train, or 215, you can hop on and not a problem at whatever time of day. And in particularly rush hour, it's like you're going to be standing. You're going to be standing because now everything, like everything else, it's being pushed back. So like, the Bronx is booming. You drive across the Triborough, you see the high rises in Long Island City and all that, even, and all those up in Northwest Bronx, Riverdale's, out in Red Hook and Brooklyn's coming up. I mean, it's funny how things are being pushed back out, even to Pelham and stuff like that. So it's like, it's funny to see, like, where is the next, kind of bring it back, where are the next generation of artists going to say, oh, I can live here and work and off of my art, you know what I mean? And or I have my day work and my hustle, and to be able to live. And so it's going to be very interesting to see. That's why my question, I appreciate your answers. Like, it's going to be a very delicate balance of like, what is quote unquote affordable. Because it'd be a shame to lose you and other artists who have called this neighborhood home and have been part of the identity of this neighborhood. Yeah.
It's also, I mean, one thing that always kind of pisses me off is the sheer number of empty spaces that there are in the city. In just Manhattan alone, there's enough to house every unhoused person, every single unhoused person and family. But the resources aren't allocated for that. They're allocated for NYPD, who, they're not stopping shit.
Yeah.
If you've seen the crime up here, I mean, it's been crazy. The winter has slowed it down a bit, which is great. But I mean, I don't want to get too much into it, but just knowing that there was a time in this country that there wasn't such thing as homelessness, you know. And then corrupt people decided, you know what? Let's keep all the money. Let's put it over here.
Let's keep the money too, and it's also keep their lifestyle. I mean, I do you remember in the pandemic a couple of years, like last year, 2 years ago, whatever it was, Upper West Side, and these are the same, far left, quote unquote forward thinking people who are like, oh yeah, exactly what you just said. We got to find places for the homeless. They go, well, great, we did. There's a hotel not being used on 70, blah blah blah, and they're like, really?
Yeah, not next to me.
It's like no. Find a place somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't want to smell that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hypocritical, right? And so I'm with you, man. I feel like there's so much good we could do, and but it's like you said too. It's a delicate balance, and it's a shame. And it would be wonderful if the true leadership, if it did emerge, and hopefully will one day, to take a look at the humanity of the problem, and the humanity of, again, culture with a capital C. What is that, and how does that flavor your neighborhood, and how does that flavor your mental health of people like going crazy, and keeping people for like where is we used to have a public pool here in Inwood. We used to have a lot of things that were good.
Dykeman?
Well, the Miramar pool at 207 and where the Pathmark used to be. It used to be a big saltwater pool back in the day. And but my point is like, yeah, it's before our time. But so my point is like public work stuff like that. I mean, even the High Bridge is kind of like nuts. I mean, try going to the High Bridge on a Friday night and you might just have a seizure. There's so much going on musically. Do you know what I mean? Sonically, it's crazy. Like people are doing movies, people are playing boomboxes, they're skating, they're having concerts, they're having picnics, and they're having whatever. It's all great, but it's just like you're just walking into a wall of noise essentially, and and there's like one pool for like 60,000 people
for everyone.
And so you wonder, like, and activities like ball courts and things like that, and I think things are getting better, and I think the Parks Department are doing what they can, but we're out of real estate. I mean, we're out of real estate, and so, like, the most popular form of transportation is the elevator. So it's going to be going up and down, and how do we do that? And how do we get creative, like doing rooftop oases and things like that, and how can we keep that in mind for artists and places to be, like the crazy radio tower thing on 181, that abstract, crazy thing over there.
Wait, what radio tower?
I'm talking about the hotel with the restaurant, the total eyesore brought in by people from Chelsea who don't know the neighborhood, and it's a total cash grab. And I've heard that every single commercial floor is vacant. Yeah. Like they can't sell it out. It's a hotel, and they're trying to. It was the development company out of Chelsea, and I won't say their names, but they try to do the buy in the neighborhood and things like that, and again, people got rich who we all know who it was. But there's a restaurant in it, and it's great, and it's like, for who can the neighbor can afford to go there, for one. Number two is that there's no community programming. It's right across from Yeshiva. You think they're not playing ball. There's nothing there. It's for the select few, and nobody has their businesses in there. So they're hoping that the money in the real estate catches up, so the neighborhood gentrifies faster, and then it can be offices and hotel for their own private business and welfare. But it's not for people who live here now, that's for sure. Not at all. And it's not benefiting any of the artists who live here either. So for those of you listening, this has been Emmanuel and Aaron's political and arts conversation, cultural soapbox, call it the soapbox diatribes of our hood.
Instead of whose streets, is whose buildings.
Yeah, but I think you guys can understand, though. It's like, we care. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, well, you know what? We just do a podcast based off of that. But anyway, man. But my hope is that I hope you stick around, and I hope other people can too, because it's a legit concern. Yeah. Yeah. And keeping finding a place for arts and culture. And so I just want to say thank you for all your contributions to the community in doing that.
Yeah. I do what I can.
That's all you can do, man. Yeah. Well, Emmanuel Abreu, thank you so much for joining us on this Artist Spotlight episode of Inwood Art Works On Air. Where can we send people now to keep up with your work?
My website, Abreu Visuals, EABREU, visuals.com. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter. I don't do shit on Twitter, but, good luck. And yeah, you could also find me walking in the streets.
But not aimlessly.
Oh, mostly aimlessly.
Oh, mostly aimlessly? Oh, okay. So give him some direction if you see him.
If you see me with a camera, that I have nowhere to go.
Well, that's your clue, all right? Buy the guy a coffee or something, all right? Well, thanks again, Emmanuel, for being here. Really appreciate it. So this is Inwood Art Works On Air. It's where I meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes to make their home here in Upper Manhattan. If you can have a moment right now, please show us some love by rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Many thanks to Church of Good Shepherd here at Inwood for hosting us, and to HideSites.com for uptown promotional support. And you can support On Air and all of our programming by making a tax-free donation to inwoodartworks.nyc/donate or via Venmo at Inwood Artworks. Be sure to follow us on social media to keep up with all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, pop-up art galleries, live performances, and so much more. And Inwood Art Works On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with City Council. And Inwood Art Works programming is made possible by the New York State Council on the Arts with support of the Office of the Governor and the New York State Legislature. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Art Works On Air.